Hello, lovelies. It's been a funny old week at Stately Grim Manor. AFM is nearly finished, so you can look forward to that very, very soon, perhaps even today. I've had my scans and things, and all of this means that I've essentially missed out on some of the hot topics, the trending topics that have been dominating the news, which means I've lost out on all that lovely ad revenue and views. And there are things, I guess, I want to say about these kind of three things that have really kind of caught my attention over about the last week. So let's go through them one at a time. A guest from the Jeremy Kyle show killed himself after having failed a lie detector test on that show. Jeremy Kyle is a kind of knockoff of those sort of American shows, Jerry Springer, all that kind of thing. They take horrible people and they humiliate them in front of an audience for entertainment value, I suppose. I guess that's the point of it all. And it was only a matter of time, I suppose, until someone got murdered or off themselves or something as a result of going on this show. So production has been cancelled. I don't know whether the shows that are in the pipeline are still going to come out or whatever. And this has led to a great deal of necessary hand-wringing on the part of everyone involved, I guess, and everyone who gets involved in these kind of shows, which in many ways, other than MTV's The Real Life and so on, these were the kind of the kick-off of the whole reality television. But it's anything but reality. It's a crafted, heightened pseudo-reality. It's Twitter in real life. But because this is broadcast media, and because these are real problems that real people have, just dialed up to 11, I think it was only a matter of time until something like this happened. And now it has. And a poor sod's dead because of it. There's a whole bunch of issues here about our ghoulish fascination with other people's pain, our cultural sadism, I suppose. A lot of it taps into the same kind of problems that we see in internet culture. People like to drag other people down, often for things that aren't really that serious at all, or which are horribly misunderstood. So we may see an unfortunate knee-jerk reaction to what's happened, when what we really need is a nuanced conversation. But when do we ever get that over these kind of issues? I think the show is trash. I think it profits off people's misery. I think shows like that probably should be controlled or limited or something, because it's just vicious horribleness with nothing really going for it at all, as far as I can make out. The thing is, though, lie detectors aren't very reliable at all. I mean, someone tense under studio lights in front of an audience, or even if they do it off camera, I don't watch the fucking show, if they do it off camera beforehand, nervous reactions can read as lies. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong, and there's different grades of lie detector, but they don't really work, which is why they're not admissible in court over here. They basically don't mean anything. So if he gave a false positive and was called a liar on national television in front of his family and everything else, then no wonder the poor sod topped himself. Now, I was nearly on the Jeremy Kyle show. They were doing an episode about internet trolling and online harassment and so on, and seemed to pick up my name from my outspoken involvement in Gamergate, and the fact that previously I'd been on Al Jazeera, not exactly talking about men's rights per se, but trying to kind of deflect the hysteria that was being aimed at the men's rights people, who are mostly are lovely people, after the Isla Vista shootings. So they seem to pick up on that somehow, and the show organizer, the booking person, phoned me up and we had a conversation on the telephone, and it rapidly became apparent that I was not what they were looking for at all, because I am, well, not to toot my own horn, but I am articulate and intelligent, and I wasn't justifying trolling. I wasn't a troll. My concerns were about free expression, freedom of speech, things being labelled trolling that aren't, and so the interview, the desire for me to come in and do the show rapidly evaporated once it became obvious that I wasn't just some horrible cunt who goes onto memorial pages on Facebook and says horrible things about the deceased. Once it became clear that it wasn't actual trolling that I was defending, but these more nuanced issues, they lost all interest and ended the call as swiftly as possible. So it's an anecdote, but it's true, and it just kind of goes to show how they construct these awful narratives and fuck people over. And now someone's killed himself, and so that gravy train has come to a halt. Meghan Windsor, the Duchess of Sussex, now has popped out a child, and so the media's gone crazy over it, as they are wont to do. And plenty of people have made comment on this. One of these people being Danny Baker, who is, or rather was, a DJ who does kind of light comedic stuff, some sports reporting, things like that. He's mostly known in London, though he has had a slightly higher profile on television and things in the past. But he made a bit of a boo-boo, because Meghan is at least slightly mixed race. Not that you'd necessarily know it to look at her. This drives the racists crazy, of course, having someone mixed race in the royal family, however far away from the throne they or their offspring might be, doesn't particularly seem to make a difference to their apoplectic xenophobia directed towards this. Frankly, who gives a fuck? My ancestors beheaded one king. Why should I care? Other than the money they leech off the rest of us from the civil list, I couldn't really give a damn. But now Danny, he has a long history of finding pictures of monkeys dressed as people funny. Now, normally, without any sort of context around it, this is, just a kind of throwback to our old PG Tips adverts or whatever. Doesn't really hurt anyone. He just finds chimps and monkeys dressed as people funny. Fair enough. A royal baby is announced, which is, however, vaguely mixed race, and he posts a picture on Twitter of a posh couple with a chimp dressed up as a human, and tags it with, royal baby. Now, most people have been following his career, and I am deferring to their knowledge, don't think he was being deliberately racist, but that is so egregious and so kind of obviously a problem. It can so obviously be read that way that even people who would defend him are a bit like, he shouldn't have done that. It's very insensitive, very politically inconsiderate, and so on. And so he's been fired from his DJing job at the moment. I don't know quite where I stand on this. Now, he professed ignorance as to all the background and so on, and just regards the royal family as a circus, in much the same that I do, a human zoo that we trot out from time to time to keep the plebs entertained and whip up some patriotism. So I sympathise with him allegedly not knowing anything about it. I largely avoided the news. Her mixed race status isn't particularly obvious, at least to my eye. I lack racist vision, and therefore I'm unable to pick out people who are that dilute, I guess you might call it. So, but it's so boneheaded and so obviously stupid that I find it hard to defend him, even though I believe that he had no ill intent and just meant it as a joke. And he's come out rather bullish against it, and more power to him in this day and age, but probably won't do his career much good. So I don't think he had any ill intent, but it is so profoundly ignorant and tone deaf that I think his firing was probably justified, but I think give it a while, it'll go away and he'll get another job, I'm sure. He's quite a popular DJ, but oh god, what a clusterfuck. And what a balance between political correctness, deference to the royal family, and all these other horrible things. Just screw it. And lastly, Sargon, Carl Benjamin, has been on the campaign trail very much and has had some interesting encounters, having sardines thrown at him, for example. I'm surprised no one tried to spin that as Sargon divides loaves and fishes for the crowd. Give it a more positive spin. But the media attacks and the obsession with the rape tweet has been just relentless. And I do not want to defend Carl. I don't like his political slide to the right. I don't like UKIP. I'm anti-Brexit. I think many of the policies and ideas in UKIP, past and present, are terrible, and I wish people would go after him on the basis of policy, on the basis of how ruinously retarded Brexit is, how there is no upside to it, how it's completely pointless, pressing him on what he means by sovereignty, whether he actually understands the word, whether he understands the societal impact that a 5 to 12% drop in the economy would be, the damage that it's done already, the 225,000 jobs that have already been lost to Brexit. All of this stuff. Press him on that. Press him on the issues. Press him on the things that matter. Banging on and on about a rape tweet that wasn't a rape tweet. What is the point? Most people, right, already have set ideas about UKIP, and they're never going to vote for them regardless how you smear it, whatever else. A certain group of people are on board with him. Their mind is not going to be changed by you lying about him, what he said, what he did, whatever else. And then there's a small group in the middle that are going to listen to this and go and check it out and find out what's actually true. And if they investigate with an honest and open mind, they're more likely to end up on his side because they're going to see that this is ridiculous. I will remind you of the context. Jess Phillips and a bunch of other MPs were going around doing this Reclaim the Internet thing, and she did a media round talking about all the spurious rape threats that she got online all the time, and using this to whip up people into, oh, this is terrible, this is awful, we must censor the internet, rather than, blocking or having one of her assistants or something handle the issue and forward stuff to her. So, Sargon, who wasn't running for office at the time, formulated the antithesis of a rape threat, promising Jess Phillips that he would not rape her. What was the reaction? Jess Phillips did another media round saying, oh, I've been attacked by this horrible troll. Now I've got thousands upon thousands of people telling me that they won't ever rape me. We must censor the internet. It was a kind of a perfect rhetorical trap, if you will. Tactically unsound later on, because a lot of people don't think. But anyone that goes and looks into Jess Phillips, will discover that she is a grotesquely horrible woman who has said some awful things about Birmingham. God knows why they still elect her. Has laughed at and dismissed male issues, including suicide, and watch the video. She's there laughing her head off. Now, Philip Davies is not someone I would choose to speak out on men's issue. He's a bit of a swivel-eyed loon, and yeah, I would rather have some reasonable people doing it, but they won't. And in that instance, he was being fairly reasonable. And then when it came to the actual debates, her and her cohort of parliamentary feminists did their level best to disrupt and derail and waste time during those debates, cutting into the time where these issues could actually be brought up and discussed. She's awful, and she's not playing awful. She's not playing a character online in the same way that Carl has in the past. She's just genuinely horrible with genuinely repugnant views. Now, Carl has many repugnant views of his own, but slandering him as a racist, as a rape threat, having him investigated, calling for him to be disqualified and so on, what is this actually going to accomplish? Very few people's minds are going to be changed. The few people whose minds are likely to be changed are more likely to end up on his side. You don't want that. I don't want that. Tactically, quite apart from anything else, this is retarded. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. There's no need to lie about people. It just undermines your position and your credibility. And for fuck's sake, can we please, somebody, debate him on the fucking issues? Zang.